As you know, every pilgrim in the Canterbury Tales, first they deliver a prologue, which is a kind of an introduction to them as well as their tale, and then they deliver their tale, and then they say their tale. So, Wife of Bath, when it comes to Wife of Bath, she is also one of the pilgrims, and her prologue has ended in our previous section. Her prologue ended with that very fiery, dramatic climax. And this section is about a kind of a reaction or an aftermath of the prologue of Wife of Bath. And as you can understand that after this interruption is her tale, because her tale is still left to be said. Wife of Bath's tale is obviously not a part of our syllabus, and as far as our syllabus is concerned, this is the last section of that syllabus of our CC 4 syllabus. So, with that, we start this section. This is also kind of an interruption, and we are already familiar with the concept of interruption. Although I'll just recap it a bit for this one as well. Previously, it was the pardoner's interruption, which was about line 169 to 193, and we have also done the implications of interruption in that video lecture. So Wife of Bath, as you know, she has been interrupted several times during her prologue and her tale, and she's interrupted once during her prologue, and that is by the pardoner, and this is kind of a second interruption, and this is by Friar. And the summoner also participates and gets into a quarrel with the friar. So it also becomes summoners and friars both their interruption to Wife of Bath's narrative as a whole. So narrative wise, as as I've already said, it is a break from the monotony of narrative, as Wife of Bath has spoken for a very long time, or almost 850 lines. It's a huge prologue that Wife of Bath delivers, and this also creates space for exchange of opinion and adds to the dramatic effect. As you know, in any drama, in any play, various characters, they deliver their dialogues. One character doesn't go on saying one thing after another. One character doesn't go on for 850 lines, although Wife of Bath does kind of go on for that long here. But now that summoner and friar comes into the scene, they kind of add that dramatic effect. It makes like a drama, or where many characters speak, and it also prepares and makes way for the readers for the continuation after the interruption, and that is exactly what is happening here. This section, which is the interruption of the friar and the summoner and their quarrel, this is an interruption which makes way for Wife of Bath's tale. So the structure of this whole Wife of Bath episode is that Wife of Bath first delivers her prologue and then her tale, and between the prologue and the tale comes this small episode, which is an exchange between the summoner and the friar. Symbolically, it still is male interruption to a female narrative, and in this case, it is mostly the friar who has a problem with Wife of Bath speaking for so long, and it is also a religious interruption. In the previous one, it was the pardoner. In this one, it's the friar. Friar is also a member of the church. So interruption to a secular narrative, which is Wife of Bath's narrative, and it also can be symbolically interpreted as the religious interference of secular and the sexual narrative. So with that, we go on to the section itself. We begin with the friar's reaction. As I said, that this section is not about Wife of Bath, it's rather a reaction to this long prologue that Wife of Bath has just finished delivering. The friar laughed when he heard all this. Now, dame, said he, so have I joy or bliss, this is a long preamble to a tale. As we can understand, this indeed was very long, and 850 lines of poetry this is, like Wife of Bath's prologue. And also for us, we are trying to complete the syllabus, and also for us it almost has taken 2 months in this videos, and this is, I think, the 27th video for Wife of Bath's prologue. So indeed it was very long prologue, and that's why the Friar, he's having a problem. He complains that that was indeed a very long prologue, and he kind of laughs it off. So he says, "Now, lady, that was a very long introduction to a tale." So prologue is kind of an introduction to Wife of Bath as a character herself, and also to her tale, because next is the tale, and will have certain ideas from the prologue reappear in her tale, although the tale is not a part of our syllabus. So the Friar is laughing at Wife of Bath because that was a huge introduction that Wife of Bath has just delivered. And in fact, among all the other narratives, all the other stories, tales and prologues, Wife of Bath's prologue is the longest. So it's kind of, while when the Friar is interrupting and laughing at Wife of Bath like that, we also kind of interpret it as men's irritation when women are taking too much space. So that is the attitude of the Friar. He's not really worried about the syllabus as we are. He's having a problem with Wife of Bath taking too long, like women taking too long, women taking up too much space, and that's an irritation, that's a problem with men, and he's unable to tolerate women's narrative. That's why he's laughing at Wife of Bath, and he has a problem with the length of her prologue. And when the summoner heard this Friar's hail, and of course the Friar, he belongs to the religious order, he's a kind of a monk, and the Friar is also another pilgrim in the Canterbury Tales. And also the same is with the summoner. The summoner is also another pilgrim in Canterbury Tales, although his profession is kind of a different. He doesn't really directly belong to the religious order. He's not a monk or something. He's rather an officer in the Christian court. So although he's kind of involved with religion, he's not directly belonging to the religious order. So, and when the summoner heard this Friar's hail, "Lo," said the summoner, "by God's arms too, a Friar will always interfere. Mark you, behold, good men, a housefly and a Friar will fall in every dish and matters higher." So the summoner is at odds with the Friar here, and summoner is also a man, but he kind of hears the Friar's comments, and he argues, and he comes in Wife of Bath's defense, a kind of a defense. Apparently it looks like he comes in Wife of Bath's defense, and he says a Friar will always interfere, a Friar and a fly, and he kind of attacks the Friar. The summoner attacks the Friar, and he compares him with a fly, and he says both the fly and the Friar likes to interfere in everything, like a fly who will sit on your food uninvited, and another is the Friar who will always meddle in other people's business, will always poke their nose when no one has really asked for their opinion. So the summoner apparently comes in the defense of Wife of Bath, and he supports Wife of Bath's narrative, and he kind of is at odds with the Friar. But anyway, we are not so sure about the support and defense of Wife of Bath. It can also be the summoner is actually against the Friar, and that is what makes him say things against the Friar and attack the Friar in this way. So it might not be actually to defend Wife of Bath in the first place. "Why speak of preambling, you in your gown? What ample trot, hold peace, or go sit down. You hinder a diversion thus to inquire." So the summoner, he kind of attacks the Friar, and he said, "What do you mean by a long introduction? And what do you mean that she talks too much? She's talking too much. She's taking too much time for her introduction. You know, you are taking too much time right now, and you go sit down and shut up. You are diverting our attention and you are ruining it. So here we have two men, the friar and the summoner, kind of going into an argument, and this also gets a bit nasty, a bit bitter very soon, as men's fights are. I say you so, Sir Summoner, said the friar. Now, by my faith, I will, before I go, tell of a summoner such a tale or so, that all the folk shall laugh who are in this place. So, the friar and the summoner, they are now fighting almost with each other. They are attacking each other. And the friar, after being attacked, he retorts and he says, "Oh, really, Sir Summoner? So, in that case, when it will be my turn to tell a story, then I will tell a story about a summoner. It will make everyone laugh." So, of course, the friar will tell a story about the summoner, and that summoner indirectly will be the summoner that's just attacking the friar. And it threatens the summoner of some kind of public humiliation, that everyone will laugh at the summoner after hearing the friar's tale. So he threatens the he threatens the summoner after the summoner attacks him. "Otherwise, friar, I beshrew your face," replied the summoner, "and beshrew me if I do not tell tales here, 2 or 3 of friars here come to Sittenborn, that certainly will give you cause to mourn, for well I know your patience will be gone." Though the summoner will also not leave, he will also not give up, and they are now quarreling, and the summoner retorts that, fine, then I'll also say a few stories about summoners that will sorry, I'll this is a typo, this is a mistake. I'll also say a few story about friars that will certainly make you cry. So the friar says that I'll say a story about summoner that will make everyone laugh, and the summoner says that I'll say a few stories about friars that will certainly make you cry. So you see men of different profession trying to humiliate each other and be suddenly getting involved in a quarrel. Our host cried out, "Now peace, and that anon, and said he, let the woman tell her tale." So here we have another character who is the host, and the name of the host is actually Harry Bailey. He is the host of the Tabat Inn, and the Tabat Inn is a place where all the pilgrims had met before they started this pilgrimage. And it was in this Tabat Inn, and it was the host's idea that of the tale, that every pilgrim will tell a prologue and a tale, one when they are going to the pilgrimage of St. Thomas of Becket, and one while returning back from the pilgrimage. So the host now interrupts to stop the quarrel between the friar and the summoner, and he says, "Let the woman tell her tale." And this statement, "Let the woman tell her tale," is of course firstly about wife of Bath, because wife of Bath is the woman who is being interrupted by this quarrel between summoner and the friar. But this statement, let the women tell her tale, this also becomes kind of a general comment, and it transcends, as you can understand, the present situation. It only means that let the women speak, and that is something which the friar apparently doesn't want to. He doesn't want the women to speak. He has a problem because the women's narrative, the wife of Bath's narrative, was being too long. "You act like people who are drunk with ale. Do, lady, tell your tale, and that is best." So the host says that you act like drunkards, you friar and the summoner, you act like drunkards. Please, lady, please, wife of Bath, you please continue with your tale, and that's the best thing that can happen. "All ready, sir," said she, "as you request, if I have license of this worthy friar." "Yes, dame," said he, "to hear you's my heart's desire." So wife of Bath says, "All right, sir, as you say, I'll continue with my tale if I have the license of this worthy friar." And of course, wife of Bath is being sarcastic here, and she's saying that if this friar, worthy friar, actually is a sarcasm because the friar is absolutely unworthy. And she says that if the friar lets me speak, if he gives me a license to speak, then I will. But we of course know that wife of Bath has that character, she has that personality, that she doesn't really require a license from any man to forward her narrative, to raise her voice. So, of course, this is a sarcastic comment. So, we take this section as a kind of an aftermath of the long prologue of Wife of Bath's Tale. And this is a kind of interruption that happens between the prologue and her tale, Wife of Bath's Tale. So, what we can understand from this section is that although Jenkins' book of Wicked Wives, that was the source of the misogyny in the society, and that destroying the book, burning the book, and ripping pages from the book was kind of a symbolic destruction of that misogynist order. But that book might be burned, and of course, as we know, that Jenkins also had kind of changed, and Wife of Bath herself says that after that incident, after that violent incident which we discussed in the previous section, we never had another argument, we never had such fights, there was no more violence, and Jenkins had probably kind of changed as a man. But burning that book and one man Jenkins changing after that incident is certainly not the end of patriarchy, it's certainly not the end of misogyny. And the friar's interruption and and the friars laughing at Wife of Bath's narrative only proves that this battle is the gender battle is only going to continue, and it still is in today's society, it's still continuing. So this is a kind of end to this whole thing about Wife of Bath's prologue. And of course, after this is the long tale of Wife of Bath, but that tale is not a part of our syllabus, although that tale kind of reflects many ideas, and these ideas reappear, that ideas which are generated, which are born from this prologue of Wife of Bath, of course reappear in her tale. So this is the end. So till next time.